Don't tempt me, Frodo.
I'll be tempted though. This looks sweet. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we are going to be tempted in Legacy, and we're going to try to do some evil things. Call of the Ring recently 5-0'd, and I want to see whether or not this card is the real deal, or whether or not the rest of the shell was just a thing that was powerful here. So let's go into the Ring Tempts You mechanic, because if you've played Limited, you probably get this now, but it's surprisingly complicated if this is the first time you're seeing it. So each time the Ring Tempts You, think of this as a level up card. So the first time around, your Ring Bearer becomes legendary and can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Now, for the purposes of Legacy, remember, Karakas is a card that exists. Next up, when your Ring Bearer attacks, and this would be the second time you got tempted by the ring, you draw a card and discard a card. The third time, whenever your Ring Bearer becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller sacrifices at the end of combat. And finally, if you get tempted 4 times, whenever your Ring Bearer deals combat damage to a player, each opponent loses 3 life. So essentially, when you get tempted by the ring, you pick one of your creatures to be your Ring Bearer, and that creature gets these abilities. Each time you get tempted by the ring, you can change which creature is your Ring Bearer or select a new creature if you'd like. There's a bunch of really weird rules interactions that can come up, but probably won't come up, so we're going to call that good enough for a cursory introduction to the mechanic for our purposes. Jacob requested some Dimir or Esper bullying featuring Orcish Bowmasters, and I thought this was a great time to go and try out the Ring Tempts You mechanic. It was very interesting in Limited, where a lot of Legends mattered stuff came up. The games often ended before you got tempted 3 or 4 times and the better abilities turned on, but Legacy games can grind. And I'm going to be playing a deck list that 5-0'd very early on. I think it was the first deck list dumps featuring Orcish Bowmasters and this card. Let's go ahead and take a look at the whole thing here. Now, today's video is sponsored by both Moxfield.com and Cool Stuff Inc. Remember, if you need some paper cards, please consider Cool Stuff, where promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order at Cool Stuff Inc. All right, so I'm going to be honest with you. We play a lot of bad decks on this channel. We test a lot of ideas. We do a lot of theory crafting. We do a lot of brews. This deck looks hot, honestly. We have the scam engine of Grief plus Reanimate to quickly sort of pull ahead in early games. And once we play an aggressive creature, be it a, 3-2 Menace, a 3-2 Shadow, or even just a big old dumb dragon, we can then protect it with Daze and Force of Will as additional disruption. We have Orcish Bowmasters to punish opposing cantrip decks and ping small creatures. The Call of the Ring is a source of card advantage, as well as kind of a source of evasion. And just going back to the ring for a second, when you have that first stage, your Ring Bearer can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. That means if you put it on something kind of small, like let's say you just put it on a 1-1 Orcish Bowmasters, your opponent has a bunch of 2-2s, or, Thalias, or whatever, or something big like a Murktide Regent. Like, your creature is effectively unblockable. And that can lead into some really cool situations with some of these follow-up abilities as well, where you go and you loot a creature into the graveyard with a second ability that you can then reanimate. So I'm excited to see how this plays out in a higher power format. Like, it's possible Call of the Ring ends up being a cheaper, like, Phyrexian arena that also has some other upside. And the draw card ability is optional, which is pretty huge. I don't think I have too much to say about the sideboard. Most of the stuff that's there is kind of pretty straightforward, although a whopping 4 Force of Negation is a pretty big statement. That is a pretty big middle finger to opposing combo decks. So yeah, let's see how this plays out in action. Let's battle. All right. I wish this hand had a second land pretty desperately, but I think I'll keep it. I just have such a great suite of spells at my disposal. Hold on a sec, though. All right, I've eliminated some glare. It's probably not noticeable to you, but was very much bugging me. Underground Sea into Thoughtseize. That is occurring. There's a pretty wide range of things my opponent could be. A week ago, every time I saw Underground Sea, I was thinking, hey, this is probably Doomsday. But now with... I don't think it's an exaggeration to say, like, Orcish Bowmasters, like, putting pressure on the format and, like, deck building is changing a lot. I don't just assume that anymore. Alright, so my opponent is going to try to stick me on a single land here. I think I just play the land that they know about. Alright, we could be working with some Grixis control here. Another Thoughtseize. Okay. Also, I'm going to do a quick check for myself. What's my basic count like? 2 and 2. Okay. That may become relevant here. Alright, my opponent took my Bowmasters. I'm not going to daze their Ponder. I think I'm just going to slam a Call of the Ring. Swamp, Island. Just do this. Play Murktide in a following turn. Use this as a source of card advantage. I have daze to protect this. Yeah, I'm going to double fetch. And just try to get this going. Alright, it's in play. How much that matters depends a lot on what sort of thing my opponent is playing over there. Like, this still could be a combo deck rather than a controller mid-range deck of some kind. Ponder's still ambiguous. Ooh, nice. We are playing around Wasteland. So we're maybe somewhere in the Grixis Delver ballpark. So note here, this is whenever you choose a creature as your ring bearer, you can pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. Murktide Regent with Daze backup. Fine. Scary to brainstorm here. Into Orcish Bowmasters specifically to finish that thought. It's a small. I'm going to play around Daze, which takes Bowmasters out of my graveyard for the purposes of Reanimate. Anyway, this is a small Murktide Regent, but it probably dodges some removal my opponent is playing, like Fatal Push, Mulligan's Command, and Lightning Bolt. There's another land drop from my opponent. It is their own Murktide Regent, which dodges the stuff that I have over here. But a really neat subgame is about to start. Because I get to do this. This is my ring bearer. We'll pay some life for a card. What removal spells do I have that kill this thing? Oh. No game 1 edicts. No sideboard edicts either? Okay. So, this is legendary. I get a loot when it attacks. Let's go ahead and take that now. Fatal Push not looking hot right now. The days that my opponent knows about is also very bad, though. Let's go ahead and discard that. My opponent is at 11. I get to play Douthie Voidwalker plus do a number of other things. I probably want to play Douthie Voidwalker around days. I think I am going to Ponder here. None of these cards currently do anything. Let's go ahead and shuffle this. I've found a new Ponder. I'm going to, I think, start by just playing a Douthie Voidwalker. I don't really know how I beat this Murktide Regent. Like, this feels like a weakness in deck construction that I just don't have ways to answer this. My answer is take it ahead of time or force of will it. I can't answer it once it's in play. Really, I can bounce it. Alright, my opponent brainstorms in response. I am fine with playing a Dazeable Ponder now. None of these cards are an out. My opponent has the first attack here. Yeah, that's fine, but probably suboptimal timing. I wish I would have known that I didn't have any outs to this Murktide Regent prior to me paying the 2 life for Call of the Ring. Oh, that's fine. I fatal push that. But I just, like, don't know what I'm playing to. Like, I don't see the way that I win the game versus that Murktide Regent. Unless my opponent does a bunch of damage to themselves with, like, a Snuff Out and then I counter it or something. My opponent doesn't have... Okay, hold on. I can see something. A little fucked up. It requires some stuff to go right, but I can see a path towards at least surviving. Ooh. I'll let you surveil, and then I have to Force of Will that, I think. Because Dragon Rage Channeler, in theory, could be a flying blocker for this for a turn, while I try to aggro my opponent down. So I think I force that. I will choose Murktide Regent. I will certainly pay the life to draw a card. 1, 2, 3, 4. Grief my opponent to check. 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Okay, take your Lightning Bolt. Evoke this. Murktide Regent. 1, 2, 3, 4 instants and sorceries. And take out some other card. This triggers Murktide Regent because of course it does. Oh my god, we won game 1. I don't believe it. Yeah, so this card did some serious work. So this gained me, I don't know, 4 points of damage from an initial attack. And then I think I got 2 cards out of this, plus a loot or 2. That was good value. So I am very bad at stopping Murktide Regent. Also, my opponent is going to have red elemental blasts, and I won't. I'm not a fan of that. This is an out to a Murktide Regent in play. This needs to come in. Force of Will feels important for stopping Murktide Regent. However, it's going to feel very bad against my opponent's assorted red elemental blasts and other disruption. I think I do that out and try to play, like, more efficient counterspells. They're not more efficient. A counterspell that won't 2-for-1 me negatively if it is countered. So I can do some Hydroblasts and Blue Elemental Blasts for opposing red blasts. And it also fights over Lightning Bolts, I suppose. This seems fine. And I'm on the draw. I'll probably think about cutting Daze. I think it's strong on the play. It might just be strong generally speaking. This is fine. I want more mana. Like, I hate... Sorry, I'm not on the play. Ugh. I was in such I have lost this game mindset that I sideboarded as if I am on the draw. Wow, that was a huge punt on my end. This is fine. I'm gonna try to remove this immediately. Probably with Underground Sea. Much as I don't like making that land wastelandable. I think I have to do this so that I have Daze up. Alright, so my opponent surveils. I will Daze your Daze to take this creature out of play. And then we'll kind of do a game reset where I'm up a card because I was on the draw. And I'm pretty happy with that as a whole. An actual factual Delver of Secrets. It has been a hot minute since I've seen one of those. So, awkward situation. If I play Underground Sea to work towards Dalthy Voidwalker next turn, I am wastelandable, but I'm probably supposed to do that. I do not believe that I am interested in pitch casting Grief yet. Oh my god, these are so good. I'm now willing to Grief my opponent. It's a little awkward if this gets wastelanded and I don't take this land as one of my 2 draws, but I always want to have both of these in my hand next turn for flexibility purposes. I think Reanimate gets hidden on top. This is an awkward Daze now, though. I think it's still worth it. Ooh. Well, I'll take Lightning Bolt. So we're hoping that Delver does not blind flip here, because if it doesn't blind flip, I get to just Orcish Bowmasters it, which is so good. Fuck yeah. Happy dance. Good shit. And this is why I wanted to have the flexibility of both of these cards, by the way. Do I do this in my opponent's upkeep so they have a chance to look at their top card? That shouldn't matter. They don't have 2 mana for something like a Predict. They don't have a fetch in play. Yeah, I would rather just do this on their turn. Also gives me a chance to do it in response to a brainstorm if that's my opponent's last card. So there's one unknown here. Nice. I will ping Delver. Just disgusting. And like my good cards currently are black cards rather than blue cards, which is brutal. I guess please don't Murktide Regent. Fuck. So I'm real bad at beating that card. 4-turn clock right now. I can potentially rival that. I can reanimate and take one of these blasts. These blasts don't super matter right now. Probably Dalthy Voidwalker this turn with a Hydroblast available. Yeah, I wish I could have griefed as well, but I don't get to do it all here. So I get to crack back for 5. The issue here is that my opponent kind of has the first swing in this sequence. Am I reanimating a Delver? I attack for 5, my opponent goes to 13. I reanimate Delver. I take 1 going to 11. That does not change my clock. But then these just kill Delver. What if I reanimate Grief? I attack my opponent for 5. They are at 13. I only have 8 the following turn. Okay, no. I need my opponent to use Pyroblasts so that I can Dalthy Voidwalker one of their blasts and kill their Murktide Regent. That's how I win this. Okay, got it. Figured out the line. Thank you. So now, with Hydroblast available, although that doesn't matter, and around days, I sacrifice this Red Elemental Blast, cast that to blow up Murktide Regent. I don't think I reanimate Murktide Regent, as cool as that sounds. I'm going to go ahead and go to combat and attack for my 2 here. Opponent's at 16. I think I just reanimate Dalthy Voidwalker. It's non-black and doesn't cost me a lot of life. Ooh. Yes. Yes. So ping you for 1 and amass. Okay. I think this deck has some construction problems, but we navigated through them. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is, in my opinion, the best Magic the Gathering website for hosting your deck lists online. One of my favorite features is that you can create your own custom tags for when you're deck building. So let's say you're building a commander deck and you want to know, hey, how many copy effects do I have? You can just create a tag and sort everything, and there's fun little hotkeys so that you can do this more quickly. So really, please consider checking them out if you are looking to tinker with deck lists online. Okay, with no cantrip here, I don't know that this is a keep, but this does just get to go Grief, Reanimate, Grief after my opponent has mulliganed to 6, so we are going to risk it for the biscuit over here. All right. Oh, well, I'm on the draw, so I don't get to daze that, and I'm terrified. Okay. So am I pitching Bowmasters or Call of the Ring? I am probably pitching Bowmasters. Call of the Ring is a source of card advantage when I desperately need it. We are playing against a lands variant that is probably 8 mulch. I think I pitch Bowmasters here. Exile the Bowman. I get to try to take a mulch effect from my opponent. My opponent has 2 of them. Luckily for me, got 2 griefs. I don't get to do basic nonsense over here. But I do get to reanimate Grief and take the other one of those things, leaving my opponent with Island and Misty to my creature. I have Daze for if they rip another relevant card off the top of their deck, like another one of these effects. Oh yeah, baby. An early concession, but I don't really blame my opponent. So Fatal Push doesn't seem to be at a premium here. That's probably the first thing that goes. And Bowmasters is pretty medium as well. I like Brazen Borrower as an out to a potential Merit Lodge. I could EE to have outs to zombies from Field of the Dead. I don't know how good that is. I could also just play this to kill like Moxen or like Mana Bonds and Explorations and stuff. It's slow at doing that. I don't really hate Force of Negation. countering an opposing mulch effect can sometimes just strand my opponent. This might even just be an upgrade to Force of Will here. Like, I trim a Bowmasters, I have this, and then I can think about this. Like, I guess, like, Flusher and Mystical Dispute are technically playable as well. I think I'm going to call this good. This does the same thing that my last hand does, where I Grief, pitch one of these two cards, and then Reanimate Grief afterwards. This is pretty strong with a Force of Will backup. I'm going to keep this, despite the fact that it is a one-lander. Just starting on a Maze of Ith. Okay. I don't have Wastelands, do I? Do not have Wastelands. That's just a round. Understood. So in that case, I need the secondary creature. Oh, GG's. Okay, I've kept my opening hand here. I don't think I ponder on turn 1. I think I am just leaving ponder as Force of Will fodder here, with the intention of playing Douthie Voidwalker into all of the ring. Surely I just have to leave up the Bowman now, right? Like, my opponent plays a 1-drop creature and I just nuke it immediately on sight. I have 2 Dryad Arbors? I just Force of Will this. So I can get Underground Sea here. Yeah, I just think, given how strong this is, to just deny my opponent 2 immediate mana sources, I just do it. Does this do on ETB? No, at the beginning of upkeep. Okay, yeah. Alright, yeah. Okay. I don't know why exactly my opponent kept their opening hand. But we are playing against something in the Elves, the ballpark. Not knowing whether or not it's traditional elves or like Newton Reclaimer elves, Fiend Artisan elves is kind of a big deal here because it changes my evaluation of Plague Engineer quite a bit. I think I'm in on Plague Engineer and EE as removal spells. If it's Newton elves and I have to worry about giant Fiend Artisans, like, this card is quite attractive. Don't I like? Days? Days on the draw versus the Cradle deck is pretty rough, especially when I don't have access to Wasteland to blow up Cradle. It's also possible that this is a meme deck of some category. I just say that as a person who just recorded with a Mono Green Storm deck. I'm not sure if that'll be out before this video. I'm kind of shuffling things around to show off new cool things. I actually don't really like Call of the Ring, though. This is very slow for this matchup. It's a black card that pitches to Grief, which I like. I'm bringing in 2 more Plague Engineers, so my block count will be the same. This doesn't hit everything, and, like, leaning on counterspells is awkward against Allosaurus Shepherd, which is going to be in my opponent's deck almost regardless. I still think I play a couple of these just as additional interaction versus, like, a turn 1 Green Sun. This is a no from me. This doesn't do anything. This doesn't cast my cantrips. Ugh. This throws back Basic Swamp and is a very mediocre hand. I think I am willing to keep it as a 6 and just very aggressively take out a piece of acceleration that I can counter and then hope to Brainstorm. I don't counter that. Finding a Nettle Sentinel. Okay, it is Elves. Reanimate is not amazing right now. It can become good. I don't have Snuff Out, so I don't need to Brainstorm immediately. I will probably end of turn Brainstorm, though, because, well, if my opponent plays an X1, I think that's true. If they don't play an X1, it's not true. Alright, I'm at 18. Let's see what they've got. I assume this is going to be a Bayou. Wow, basic again. Oh, they're playing as if I'm Delver. Yeah, I will let a Visionary resolve, I think. So since they have an X1, I am going to Brainstorm and open up the possibility of just playing a Bowmasters. Swinging a whiff on that front. I can go ahead and fetch to clear. I have some unimpressive Brazen Borrower lines that I might take. I don't think I need to Brazen Borrower and bounce a creature here, because Cradle into Natural Order is a thing that can happen, but I have Force of Negation covering that. This is a long pause. I wonder if they're debating casting natural order. Yep, that occurs. This can get a Heritage Druid and get things to become very silly. So I'm going to go ahead and just counter that. I don't think I Brazen Borrower to save 2 life here. That just makes me worse against a Glimpse. Okay, I don't have a black card for reanimating this. So this is an unimpressive turn. But my opponent might be playing scared right now. Okay, yeah, they're not willing to attack with the X1. Notably, this can only block flyers. All right, I am at 13. That is a Ponder. That is not a black card for grief purposes, but hopefully it can find something that matters. Fatal Push. Fatal Push can give me grief, reanimate grief, or remove 2 power. What am I really trying to do right now? Ideally, it's play Bowmasters. I think I take Brainstorm and Fish for Bowmasters. Oh fuck, I was supposed to fetch. God damn it. Well, okay. Allows me to double Fatal Push my opponent's creatures while leaving Force of Will available for a worst case scenario. Okay, that ended up better than expected. I think I can do this in my opponent's upkeep. Could have something like an Endurance coming. Not immediately. I'm going to blow up a Nettle Sentinel. I think I leave this because Bowmasters is a thing that exists in my deck, as awkward as it is to potentially leave that in the face of a Wirewood. And I think I do this now so that Cradle doesn't get to add additional mana. This does put me in the situation where I have to Force of Will a Wirewood. JK. Bowmasters is looking hot. So is Plague Engineer. Grief came back. This stops the small things from getting me, but my Force of Will is currently off. Ooh, hoo hoo. They did have multiple natural orders, but we're playing scared. I think I'd take one. I just cast the other one on the next turn though, and it beats me. Still think I'd take it in case they don't go for it, and then I get a chance to try again next turn. So this potentially picks up a Dryad Arbor. Yep. Yeah, and this stops my Force of Will. And Crater Hoof is more than enough to kill me here, even through my meager blocker. So it looks like this is combo elves rather than Newton elves, meaning my Plague Engineers and Orcish Bowmasters are particularly going to be good a lot of the time. When I'm on the play, Daze becomes a little bit better. It can take out initial creatures. I'm going to take a couple of those in. Brazen Borrower is a little bit less necessary, given what I saw. Like, it doesn't look like this is Fiend Artisan Elves, so I think another Daze can just come in. It's possible I just want to play one of these as a black card, though, because we were a little short on things for grief this time around. So this hand can become very good, but it is not very good right now. It's very easy to Brainstorm lock myself, not get to a second mana. Doubthy Voidwalker isn't the be-all end-all. I think I'm going to mulligan this one. Immediately rewarded. I will go to 5. This is a removal heavy hand that I will keep. It's probably better than the first hand, honestly. One Murktide goes back, and I keep one of these 2. It's pretty easy for me to put 3 cards in graveyard. I would need 2 more in graveyard to cast a Murktide Regent. But the Murktide Regent will be a much bigger threat most of the time. So I think I'm just good with this. I'm not going to immediately cast EE for 1, telegraph that that's a thing that's coming. Okay, Green Sun is perfect, actually. So this gives me a Fatal Push target, and my opponent did not use an actual 1-drop here. Means those are still in hand for the purposes of EE. So I'm hoping they play 2 1-drops this turn, and I just get to 2 for 1 them with EE by playing it and cracking it. There's one. I don't know that I just kill that alone here. I think I'm going to try to play this one patiently and get a little more value out of that. It's awkward in the face of something like Wirewood, though. which can bounce elves. That's a Heritage Druid. Well, hands off the steering wheel. We'll see what my opponent can do this turn. This EE is either going to be insane. Oh god. Alright, it is a Glimpse of Nature turn. So, you haven't had the glory of this happening before to you. Whenever you cast a creature spell this turn, you draw a card. So my opponent now has a Nettle Sentinel that gets to untap itself, and they will vomit creatures into play while drawing cards. Every 2 elves that they cast will allow them to make 3 more mana, so they can churn through their deck. Okay, so they're gonna make 2 mana with Birch Lore to Once Upon a Time. Okay, honestly, that wasn't that bad for me. Like, that could have been so much worse. I'll take 2 damage here. That's not that big of a deal. So it cost me all 3 of my mana this turn to play and crack EE, and I don't think I take any chances on that. I will EE for 1. Crack that, nuke 3 elves, really shut down my opponent's mana production, get in for 3, and I probably cast a Murktide Regent next turn. I'd like to Brainstorm first. I'd like this Murktide Regent to be bigger than just a 4/4. I'd also just like to find Orcish Bowmasters, like I've been saying again and again and again and again and again. Wirewood Elvish Visionary is very good, so my opponent can float 2 mana here, bounce Elvish Visionary, recast Elvish Visionary for a card. Oh, they're not going for it. Oh, they're going to attack first. No. Yep. That makes sense. I go to 15. Is this going to be a Dryad Arbor or no? I can cast a Once Upon a Time looking for an Orcish Bowmaster. That's kind of a neat feeling. Oh, wow. Okay. Another EE would be pretty insane. I think I'm legitimately interested in doing this. Use Once Upon a Time. Cast Once Upon a Time. Is a Murktide Regent or a Grief. Either one of those is amazing right now. I'll take a Murktide Regent. It can grow the other one. I think this is a Brainstorm. I would like to shuffle away one of these Murktides. Yikes. Okay. Shuffle away 1 Murktide. The shadow creature is not ideal right now. So I'm going to do this and fetch, and then I get the choice of, am I just playing Murktide Regent as a 5/5, or am I trying to get this under control? And I think I have to try to get this under control. So much upside to shuffle and hit a removal spell directly. I think I am going to shuffle so that I can hit Orcish Bowmaster if I draw it, and I am punished, and this swamp bites me in the butt as I can't Murktide Regent. So if my opponent's got it this turn, they've got it this turn. They have a gajillion mana, they have a bunch of draws. There's a Green Sun for 1, which can pick up like a Heritage Druid. Oh, an Allosaurus Shepherd. Alright, F6, natural order me. Or hoof me directly. Yeah, that's brutal. I am dead to that. We dug deep looking for removal and just fully whiffed on that. GG's. Alright, this is round 4. We're 2-1. I know that I want to ponder for a threat. Yes. I don't want to draw that card. I want to draw these other 2. I don't want Bowmasters to get Thought Seized, so I will take Call of the Ring into my hand here. I would prefer not do Daze right now. Well, okay. I will Daze that. Mox Diamond decks are never up to any good, and their mana's usually pretty bad. Fuck! God damn it. I don't think I can Force of Will that. I think I have to save this for a Sphere of Resistance that comes afterwards. Alright. Not a big fan. Not a big fan of what's happening here. I always want to fetch. Oh, fuck, I played the wrong fetch. It needs to be this one so that I can Daze if I need to, while still getting Island and Swamp. So that I'm better versus Wasteland. Ghost Quarter's horrifying, though. Yep. Force of Negation out of the sideboard is probably going to be important here. Ghost Quarter gets to obliterate my lands. I also can't fetch. Well, I guess I can fetch. It's just awkward. I think I can flash Orcish Bowman in response to this trigger and choose it as my ring bearer. I think that conceptually makes sense to me, meaning that I can do this. Bowmasters is just like not what I'm looking for in this matchup. Ooh, so there's Dark Depths. I hope I don't have to force a Will of Life from the Loam as a tempo play. I have one Brazen Borrower as an answer to a Merit Lodge. Blast Zone can kill both of these at the same time. Also, the ring tempting my creatures will make them legendary for the purposes of something like Karakas. Alright, so this trigger on the stack. I flash in Orcish Bowmasters. Ping my opponent for 1. The ring can tempt me. We're going to have some legendary Ringberry Orcs, and I will 100% take some damage to draw some cards here. Those cards aren't named Murktide Regent. I just make a land drop and pass here. I expect that I am dead in short order. Tapping my fetch. Sure, I really didn't want that to happen. Let's just grab an Underground Sea. I need to leave some basics in the deck for purposes of Ghost Quarter. Urza Saga is a problem. This is probably my tempo Force of Will. It doesn't feel good. That's also brutal. That makes Murktide Regent not particularly good here. I don't think I cast Brainstorm now. I think a lot of times one of my blue sources will get ported in my upkeep and I can do it then. Now they hit my black one. So we will pay the life to draw some cards. Not looking great for the home team. Yep. Okay. I don't like what I'm looking at, but at least I can see a path forward. I do this, play this, attack for 2, get a loot here, get rid of one of the fatal pushes from the top of my library. I can counter Life from the Loam the next time it comes down here. And then Douthie Voidwalker exiles it. Fuck. I have to force a will that or my opponent makes Merit Lodge. Just immediately. That is brutal for me. That means that my opponent can get their Urza Saga back now, which is a longer term problem for me. I guess I should keep an eye on what goes to exile. Alright, so there's the Life from the Loam. They've got Urza Saga. A Blast Zone on X equals 2 is also a 3-for-1 as of right now. Alright, and there's a Yavimaya as well, which is nice for like their Ancient Tomb purposes. And Dark Depths as well. Oh, right. Continue to click on this. Yes. Alright, we're going through that Fatal Push. Don't want any of this stuff right now. I'm going to take the damage here and hope that I loot into like a cantrip or something. Negative. Get rid of that. My opponent's at 12. Blast Zone fucks me up royally. Yeah, I know. But I don't have a Wasteland to crop rotation for, which is rough. Notably, I don't think Wasteland is supposed to be in this mana base. This is just a very weird set of interactions that result in me potentially wanting exactly one. I'm not mathing it out, but my opponent also is not that far away from Dark Depthsing all over the place. The way to do this on my turn, meaning I can do things with Douthie Voidwalker. Using that to get an Urza Saga? I guess I'm using that to get an Urza Saga. Then this and this get destroyed. The ring still tempts me, but I don't get to do the next stage. I think my opponent was supposed to blow. Oh, that's beautiful. This is legendary. It can't be blocked by a 2/2. Playing a little bit more of a game than I expected here. Yuck. I'll get rid of a fetch land. Oh yeah. So now we are at the damagey portion. So my opponent goes to 8. I get to play an Urza Saga, cast a Murktide Regent. 1, 2, 3, 4. The other one doesn't matter. Don't have Force of Will available right now. I'm 1 mana short of that. But I have a real chance at killing my opponent. A lot of this depends on whether or not they have a Shadow Spear. Yes, I will use Ghost Quarter's ability. I should have floated a mana there. Pick up another basic. Alright, make your token. Yep, that's fine. I, in theory, have 8 damage on board. I think my opponent is about to make a Merit Lodge without me being able to say anything about it. I think this just gets Expedition Map. Yeah, okay, so it finds Expedition Map. Sphere is fine. Don't get to Opposition Agent or anything like that this league. Finding a Maze of Ith. They are not playing towards killing me immediately, they are playing towards not losing. Which hopefully favors me, honestly. A Reanimate on Douthie Voidwalker, probably? Might have to be Orcish Bowmasters, depending on how things go. I attack with both. I assume Murktide gets mazed, meaning that it's a reasonable blocker. Oh. I get a draw and a discard. Orcish Bowmasters. 1, 2, 1. 3 mana remaining. Force of Will doesn't do anything right now, for the most part. Land Drop's not doing a ton either, but Force of Will might do something next turn. Okay, yeah, Murktide gets mazed. So my opponent goes to 7, then takes 3 from the ring. I reanimate. Target Bowmasters. Oh, I was supposed to do this pre-combat. Oh, I fucked up. I was supposed to reanimate and play Orcish Bowmasters pre-combat to deal 2 more points of damage with a mass because they're still unblockable. And then 2 from pingers. Alright, let's do it now anyway. But I had lethal this turn, and I just missed it. It was a very weird lethal, but it was lethal. Alright. This deck's pretty good. Alright, so they're chilling. I guess I respond to that. So I don't have to fetch. Ping them. This alone is now lethal. So is Murktide Regent. Do I attack with the Bowmasters as well? No, because I need blockers, right? Yeah, no, because I need blockers just in case something goes wrong. Actually, no. I attack with both of them, and one of them dies, and one gets through. So my opponent would just block, and I can ping them to 1. That doesn't do me any good. That is assuming that both block. I think I just hold those back. Reanimate is interesting. Reanimate is like Douthie Voidwalker Plus, but it costs me life. I think I am just binning Reanimate right now. Okay, I definitely could have punted that game by messing up, but I recovered it. Very surprised to have won that game. Good stuff. So I think I always want engineered explosives. It's one of my few ways of dealing with enchantments. I always want Brazen Borrower. I want some number of Force of Negations because of how good they are versus Life from the Loam. This is a generic counterspell that I could play, but I'm not overly excited about it, and I don't think I want to go Null Rod deep. I can Hurkyl's Recall to clear Urza Saga tokens, because I'm not the best at doing that. I am probably mostly going to clear Fatal Pushes from my deck. Orcish Bowmaster is also not at its best here. My opponent's not drawing cards, at least not in the traditional sense. If I do that, I can bring in this and just keep 1 fancy art Bowmasters. My black count for grief is relatively low if I board like this. Maybe some number of Force of Negations need to be replacing Force of Wills so that I keep enough black cards to do the grief, reanimate, grief lines that give me aggressive starts. What about getting rid of Daze instead? Like my opponent will outpace Daze relatively quickly. Blue count's still fine. And I can keep one Fatal Push or one Plague Engineer to help out with tokens. This is not my favorite. Don't have a black card for if I find Grief. My cantrips have to go towards finding lands, and I have to fetch a non-basic. That said, I think I'm still just going to keep this. Just very bad versus Wasteland. Ghost Quarter's fine. Saga's annoying. I don't have Wasteland. I can find a Hurkyl's Recall to kind of clean everything up. Otherwise, I might need to, like, Murktide Regent race this. I will take both lands here. I actually probably draw Bowmasters, though, because if my opponent doesn't have another artifact and they just play Ancient Tomb, Urza Saga, I can kill a Urza Saga token with Bowmasters. Alright. That might mean that I'm, like, Force of Willing a Chrome Mox here. That is unfortunately a Wasteland. And I don't get to do anything about that. Expedition map. Given how bad I am at using my mana right now, I would like to counter that. I don't want my opponent to have another artifact at all possible right now. It's like Orcish Bowmasters is the way that I currently get rid of potential Urza Saga tokens in the future. Oh, fuck. I might have needed to fetch there to play around Pithing Needle. Damn it. Yep. I'm normally so good about... They just gave me mana. Oh, no. Is this pitch Murktide Regent or pitch Brainstorm? Probably pitch Murktide Regent. Getting to blue right now is hard. Okay. So this will become an Underground Sea, and I can just cast my Orcish Bowmasters normally. Dark Depths is scary, but hopefully not the end of the world. Go to 17 to fetch and drop Bowmasters. Yeah, I don't know that the Pithing Needle play makes sense if you immediately Yavimaya afterwards. We'll see how this kind of shakes out for my opponent. I'd love to draw that Ring Tempts You card, whatever it's actually called. My opponent must have something like a crop rotation that they're thinking about casting. Okay, that is a crop rotation. I'm about to get tabernacled. Getting Bojuka bogged? Like, this isn't blue mana anyway. This luckily is. Let's brainstorm. I'll put back Force of Will, Eluded Delta, and I'll end up fetching to clear. I don't have any reanimation targets as of right now. I find it difficult to believe that... Well, I don't know. Maybe it's fine. I'm dead to that. But I have like one Hurkyl's Recall. I don't have enough power on board to reasonably just power through what's going on over there. Drawing blanks. Am I fine conceding? I think with Wasteland Recursion and Urza Saga Recursion and my opponent at 17, I'd rather just save time for game 3. I know I strung together a win in that game 1 scenario, but I think this is bad enough that I just pack it in and save my clock. I am happy enough with how things look here. Alright. This has no ability to hit its second land drop. I'm not interested in this hand. I don't really love this hand. Bowmasters is just like not the threat for this matchup. I've not managed to hit like a Grief Reanimate Grief opener. I can just strip my opponent's starting resources. I probably keep this hand, but I probably throw back the Bowmasters and start cantripping for a better threat. I think I have to do this off basics, which is awkward because I really want to find Murktide Regent a little bit later on. Let's go Island and cast a Ponder. You all are late to the party. I don't have a black card for Grief unless I also draw Bowmasters, and at that point, that's not a good prospect. Bowmasters is back again. I threw you on the bottom, I found you on the top, I threw you away again, and still you come back to me. I am so bad at fighting against Urza Saga. That resolves. I will clean that up with EE at some point. Unclear to me whether or not I try to just do that immediately. I probably just have to blow that up. Force of negation in that. I can play EE for 0 and blow up Mox Diamond, which potentially knocks my opponent off of any Urza Saga tokens or puts them in the range that Orcish Bowmaster can kill them. This is an embarrassing play if my opponent just has an Ancient Tomb chilling in their hand so that they could still make the constructs. But if not, this might save my bacon. Alright. Ugh. I was forced to use the Force of Negation on the Sphere, meaning the life from the loam gets to stick around. I don't have black since I've fetched basics. This is incredibly punishing. So my opponent will probably find like an expedition map here. Oh, they are just simply going for a Mox Diamond since they have life from the loam. Reasonable. Oh, this is super annoying. It's going to take me off of any prospects of casting Douthly Voidwalker on my turn. Also going to take me off of hardcast Force of Negation if I draw that. So we'll Bowman. I'm not happy about it. Like, this is just not the card that I'm looking for in this matchup, and I've shuffled it away twice this game so far. Yeah, so that port keeps me from playing Douthly Voidwalker this turn, which is a huge deal against the opposing Life from the Loam. Like, this damage is fine and all, but playing around Wasteland Lock has been costly in the short term. Oh man. I know they have Lightning Bolts. This is a problem. Yeah, Lands is a deck that often eats slow-ish blue decks alive, and I am very much feeling that here. Alright, they've made a land drop. You can tap down my land, that's fine. Technically shouldn't have been F6'd there, but my opponent was just kind of in the tank. Okay, so I at least get to play the Douthly Voidwalker now and crash in for some points of damage, but this is just like not going to be enough versus this, like my opponent who just refueled via Life from the Loam, I don't think. Like, I would be very happy to be wrong. But they just took a Maze of Ith and a Saga to hand, as well as a stage. So I just get slowed down so very much here. And I'm probably going to get ported off of the ability to hardcast a Force of Will. Sure. Yep. So I'm going to only accomplish 2 points of damage this turn. But it is accomplishing damage, technically. My best draw here, like a Brainstorm to just get rid of Force of Will, turn it into 2 reasonable cards. Reanimate's not looking good right now. I don't have Wasteland to draw towards. Murktide's not bad, I guess. Choke. Well, ported off of this. That resolves, and this becomes more of a pain in the ass. So still no stuff over there. So I'll crash in, but again, it's just 2 points of damage. And if I want to have Force of Will available, I need to play out this land. I don't get to save it for Brainstorm anymore. My opponent gets to start going to town on these assorted lands. But, you know, mana that they spend doing that is mana that's not being spent on Urza Saga or other win conditions. So, you know, there is that. Alright, there is a stage which has very good copy targets. My opponent is not upkeep doing this. I'm not sure if it's correct to, but is what I would be doing in their situation. The Call of the Ring, huh? That's interesting. Gives me a lot of agency versus Urza Saga Construct tokens. Do I take 2? Just run through a lot of cards? I don't think so. I think I bury 1, do this, no shuffle. It would be creating a 2/2 here, which means Douthly Voidwalker is the only valid attack. Which means I'm not actually accomplishing damage this turn. Yeah. Is this basic Swamp? Second basic Swamp? This is probably second basic Swamp. That at least gives me some stuff that I can continue to play. We'll see how my opponent chooses to play out this turn. They can like copy Urza Saga and try to grind things out here and make some constructs. This is not good. These are 3/3s immediately. I guess I can also work on timing out my opponent. Oh, not anymore. That's rough for me. Now I don't get to aggro my opponent down. Rickle's Recall is an out to this nonsense. I'm gonna take this damage. The ring can tempt me. Do this on an orc here. I will pay the life. Gotta find something relevant here. My opponent did not Rashad and port down one of these, so Murktide Regent in the air is valid. And relatively thick. 1, 2, 3. I should just use swamps now. 4, 5. And I want to do this right now so that my opponent doesn't get any fancy ideas about porting me mid-combat. I may miss on one counter on Murktide Regent for doing this, though. Due to... Or no. I loot starting on the second stage now, so this was correct. Opponent, you do not have the time to be sitting there and thinking. You need to be taking game actions. Pyroblast. I don't have a blue card for Force of Will. Not happy with this current situation. Like, I had a very reasonable way to get out of this, but it was countered. That's why my opponent didn't port, but I also thought they were supposed to port the previous turn, but I guess the answer to that was Pyroblast. Alright, Urza Saga ticks up. My opponent can make another one of those things, meaning that I'm facing lethal damage. So Bowmasters has to chump block or I die. Okay, they're not making another construct immediately, which is probably correct to play around things like Hercule's Recall, although I can't really reasonably cast that right now anyway. So we will become tempted by the ring here. A 2 life, go to 3. I don't really know what I'm looking for. It's not that. It's not that. I will concede here. It's possible my opponent times out if I play out the previous game, but like I am low on time myself, so if the match went slightly differently, like I could have just as easily been in that position. GG's. Alright, final round here. I don't really know that I'm excited about this hand. It plays a turn 2 Dalthy Voidwalker with Daze and or Force of Will backup, but like has no cantrips. It has too many lands here. I think I just mulligan this one. Cool. I mean, obviously this does nothing. This is not a particularly great hand. I guess I will be keeping it. This is still just potentially better than the first hand, though. And certainly better than the second. I really don't want to have to daze something right now. With a third land drop, I think I am comfortable fetching non-basics here. Seems like we've dodged a Stifle. We'll play a Dalthy Voidwalker. I would probably daze to protect it as of right now. Just because I really need to get instants and sorceries into the graveyard for the purposes of Murktide Regent casting, which is going to be the actual way that I win this game. Dimir Spirit Guide entered the exile zone. Understood and unexpected. So we are playing against Painter, it looks like. So I could fetch and play a 4/4 Murktide Regent right now. I think I would rather play a larger Murktide Regent next turn, though. I think I'm just going to reanimate here. Okay, my opponent has very strong feelings about my Dalthy Voidwalker here. That's going to exile with a void counter on it because of how my opponent did that. Alright, this is why they have such strong feelings about it. Alright, got it. Is going to put a Painter into the yard. Or not. So, I have 5 cards in graveyard. I can fetch and keep Dalthy Voidwalker in graveyard, or I can just exile it so that my cantrips become better, which I think is what I am supposed to do. I will, of course, draw a Reanimate next turn. Alright, so my opponent returns this. So they can discard their hand to draw 3 cards. They found an Urza Saga, and if memory serves, this deck did not have Wasteland. Well, I will daze that. I'm gonna just check that real quick. Is the next day from when I recorded the previous rounds. Kappa. It never fucking fails. Alright, I'm hitting for 5 here. My opponent's at 14. I had 2 reanimates versus 8 or so cantrips. Got a 12 after the double strike damage from this. Fable is an annoying piece of value here. I need something else. Sure. You get to bring back Painter's Servant. Grindstone becomes a problem. Everything's black, so Snuff Out, which I don't think I'm playing, is not an out anymore. Confirming, yeah, no Snuff Out here. When it enters the battlefield from your graveyard. Well, it's not going to enter the battlefield from my graveyard. That's inconvenient, so I can't do this to get a draw 3. I am deterministically dead, right? Activate, activate. Assuming my opponent goes for it, I'm deterministically dead. I'm going to make sure that this interaction works the way that I believe it does. Yeah, it does work the way that I think it does. I was dead anyway, so it's worth double checking. My opponent will float some mana, and then they just have me dead. Yep, I will concede to that. GG. Alright, I don't have the Emrakul in this deck. That was a different deck. So the balance here in playing against a deck like this one is you can't overly respect the combo and just die to fair stuff. Like, you have to respect the combo, but if you just board in a gajillion combo hate cards, you end up just dying to Fury Beats and things like that. My opponent's Spirit Guide probably really what won them that game, oddly. I'm not really sure what I don't want. Grief can kind of be awkward because of graveyard-based recursion, but like I have 7 cards that I could possibly play. I could go down on traditional counterspells. Like Force of Willing a card is particularly worse when my opponent goes and plays a billion Red Blasts. And I can largely be trying to play to the board instead. If I do that, I can get a whole bunch of generically good cards into the deck. I think if I keep Bowmasters, I don't need Plague Engineer as well. How do we feel about this card in the matchup? It's slow. When we get into the value-oriented, grindy play situations, it's fine. Yeah, I am perfectly happy with this. I have to choose whether or not I want to respect Blood Moon. I'm not very good at respecting Blood Moon while also respecting my ability to cast cards. Like, I can't get one of each basic, and Stealthy Voidwalker is a card that I would very much like to ponder for and play, which means fetching an Underground Sea on turn 1. I think this is a game where, at least in the short term, I'm ignoring the existence of maybe 2 to 3 copies of Magus of the Moon out of the sideboard. Reanimate and Blue Elemental Blasts. I really want more cantrips to string into Murktide Regent or something like that, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle that. So from here, I can consider just going one of each basic. I will just Fatal Push that. Is Brazen Borrowing or Borrowing It as a tempo play just better? I don't really know that it is. I'm just going to go ahead and nuke this now. Spirit Guide plus a Blast could counter this. At which point I have to think about whether or not I would want to Force of Will back. Alright, it's dead. Alright, we're chilling. This is a reasonable set of spells that I have access to. Can kill some of my opponent's creatures that they play out with Bowmasters. I think I'm going to intend on trying to bounce that back to their hand this time. I'm going to let that resolve. And now I have to make a decision about basics. I think I am willing to fetch basics here. We're just going to attempt to take a tempo play here. And we do succeed. Is it Murktide time? I don't have Murktide with Force of Will backup. I have Murktide while being able to play Orcish Bowmasters afterwards. I also could just pass the turn and play Brazen Borrower first. In my opponent's shoes, I don't know that I fight over just a bounce spell. Yeah, I'm just going to pass the turn. Try to get them to use a blast on a Brazen Borrower so that the Murktide Regent actually sticks around. Yep. I'm fine with that, I think. So it feels like, at this point, I can fully play around a future Magus of the Moon and attempt to get a real clock going. I'm probably going to end up griefing my opponent this turn. Just get a feel for what's going on the other side of the battlefield. I may or may not play EE. Is there merit in hardcasting Grief? I think there is. That body is quite strong here. That is a Pyroblast. I feel like this is a Force of Will moment. Like, Force of Will, pitch Orcish Bowmasters, take a critical card from their hand, have EE to clean up, problem permanents next turn, play Murktide Regent, kill the following turn if I don't need to do that. This is actually just already a 2-turn clock. Yeah. Let's Force of Will, exile Orcish Bowmasters. What do you got? Bowmasters of your own. No Metalcraft. I'll probably take Lightning Bolt, despite the fact that Bowmasters becomes good in a lot of situations. Alright. I am dead to my opponent top decking Grindstone, I guess. That's incredibly inconvenient. So I lose my Brazen Borrower here. Alright, my opponent is on Hardcast Simian Spirit Guide. So if I am okay with dying to Grindstone, I can set up a very good Murktide Regent turn. But I think I can just wait another turn on that and play EE for 2 and intend on cracking it. I can just fully clear my opponent's board. I attack in with Grief and then play Giant Murktide. Yeah, I don't think I'm willing to die to a top-decked Grindstone. Yeah, so I will go ahead and play this for 2. Comfortable cracking it immediately, killing both of those. I don't think I play this land for brainstorm-based purposes. I'd be fine trading these if my opponent wants to do that. Yeah, that's fine. And we can go ahead and go to their turn. Alright, a new painter is scary. That will give my opponent a turn cycle where they can top deck a Grindstone. Under push. Force of Will. We'll leave the creatures for reanimate purposes later. And play a Giant Murktide Regent. I'm still going to hold this land. So I am fully dead to a top-decked Grindstone. Another Painter's Servant is fine. Still fully dead to a top-decked Grindstone next turn. I think I do just go ahead and play this out now for the extra point of damage on the next turn. And to free up a lot of mana. I'll play that out to represent Force of Will. And I have my opponent dead next turn. Ancient Tomb is now off, so that point of damage from Orcish Bowmasters is super relevant. So I'm not dead to Grindstone anymore. Yes. Slightly awkward situation here. Yeah, this is going to start being good. I am going to make the land drop. Like, with this in play, I might need some extra mana. Alright. We're getting tempted. Pick the Orc army. Pay some life. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The 1-2. Can't do 2 of these, so I guess I just kind of pay the maximum. This is lethal next turn. Don't have good attacks. Surgical on Grief for mana. I wonder if the line is actually like surgical themselves to remove some copies of a card in their deck to increase the chance that they draw Grindstone, because they have 4 mana to play Grindstone and kill me. So I think that was potentially a misplay on their end. Not 100% sure though. Yeah, and that's the reason why. What's the second stage? The loot. Yeah, you can continue to be my ring bearer. Okay, cool. Now I have some real cards. Let's try to find... I guess I don't have very many counterspells in the deck right now. These are very good. So, Brainstorm, Bowmasters, Push, No Shuffle, Cast Brainstorm, Put Back, Murktide Regent, Brainstorm, Brainstorm, Put Back, all of the Ring, Brainstorm, Fatal Push a Painter Servant, attack with both, ping my opponent for the last point of damage, draw a card, discard a card. I did this wrong. I should have gotten rid of the other copy of this. I'll get rid of Brainstorm. All right. We go black, black, play Bowmasters, ping you, and get in for lethal damage as well. So it's a little scary not having more copies of Force of Will, having played out the game that way. But looking at the deck, I'm kind of happy with how things are. Like, Orcish Bowmasters wasn't at its best there because my opponent wasn't doing any like Fable of the Mirror Breaker or Phyrexian Dragon Engine stuff, but it also does just kill Goblin Welder, which I think matters. Grief's not great in the late game stages, but is very good in the early game stages. I know my opponent is playing Surgical, so the whole Grief Reanimate thing gets a little bit less reliable. It's not like their Surgical looked good that game. And we're going to resubmit as is, but I'm a little uncertain that I've boarded correctly. This is a reasonable mix of lands and spells. It's a little awkward that I can't necessarily Dalthy Voidwalker on turn 2. I have other perfectly valid plays. I don't think I need to Grief immediately. I am just going to ponder. I will ponder off Underground Sea, but I have a better chance of Dalthy Voidwalker on turn 2. I think I am happy enough with these cards. Put Fatal Push on top, draw Sea this turn. Okay, there's some mana acceleration from my opponent. Dalthy Voidwalker is a little slow here. Phyrexian Dragon Engine to yard. Orcish Bowmasters starts to look pretty good against that. I'm wondering if I just push the Engineer. I think I am just going to intend on pushing the Engineer. Okay, I have Grief Reanimate as a thing that I can do here. So I think I am okay putting back Brazen Borrower and 1 land. Grief, pitch, Grief, with intention of Reanimate, fetching with this. Put a UC back into the deck as well. Alright. To do this, Grief, pitch Grief. Oh, take their Fable. The Reanimate portion of this plan is not particularly strong anymore. My opponent doesn't have another card for me to take. So that probably means that this wasn't a black fetch, unfortunately, so I can't get basics. This probably just means that I Fatal Push the Engineer and then just kind of hope to string together something that beats this Saga. That probably does it. Oh, it's awkward that I don't have triple black available because I kept this over another Underground Sea. I think that means I'm just playing out Dalthy Voidwalker this turn. This Great Furnace is actually super awkward for me because Bowmasters isn't gonna kill the Construct token as long as my opponent plays Great Furnace. Oh shit, they didn't. That's a major misplay. So let's ship in with Dalthy Voidwalker here. Bring my opponent to 15. I am doing this more as a menace threat than anything else. Oh, cool. We get a red elemental blast. Great Furnace, Mountain, wooded foothills left. I have everything except top deck Painter covered with my line. All right, so you get a 1/1. Bowmaster pings and kills that token. And everything except top deck Painter I have covered. All right, there's the Grindstone I expected. Going to be Phyrexian Dragon Engine coming back. So they'll discard their hand, draw 3 cards. Does this go to their face or do I kill Phyrexian Dragon Engine? I think I go to their face. That leaves my opponent at 9 when this is said and done. I can just take this damage. I don't care about that. Lotus Petals, fine. What are you doing? You just had a kill. You just play Painter, activate. Oh no. Sorry, they drew that off of Phyrexian Dragon Engine. That's fine. 3 lethal. Fatal Push. Target Painter. Dead you. And that is enough to get us a 3-2 finish in this league with an overall positive record. So that brings us to the end of the league here. So let's evaluate a couple of cards that we saw today. First, Call of the Ring. I dislike that this card does nothing the turn that it comes into play, because the first time you get tempted by the ring is your next upkeep. However, in grindy matchups where you need to draw some extra cards, this is a relatively efficient way to do that doesn't really require jumping through too many hoops. Notably, if you don't have creatures, this doesn't draw you cards, so in a removal-heavy matchup, this might not really be reliable as that way to draw some extra cards. And how about our good friend Orcish Bowmasters? Obviously, this is still really strong. This card is insane, format changing, maybe format warping. We'll kind of see how that ends up developing. But it is not like the be-all, end-all. Sometimes your opponents aren't going to draw those extra cards and you don't get those values, that extra value. But like as we saw when our opponent did that Phyrexian Dragon Engine draw 3 play at the end of this game, I just got to shoot them for 3 and then make a giant body. That was incredibly strong. And the sort of normal use of this card should be very high ceiling. The floor on this card is still just 2 bodies and 1 additional damage to the face or a creature for 2 mana, which is still pretty efficient, especially at instant speed by legacy standards. Taking a quick look at the deck list before we go here, this deck felt strong, but I definitely felt like I had weaknesses. So answering an opposing Murktide Regent was something that was very scary, for example. Like anything that Fatal Push misses is a problem. Sometimes we can just tempo out our opponents and just kill with Murktides and Griefs or Dalthy Voidwalkers and whatever before we have to answer the problem. But I really kind of wanted some edicts or something in this deck that just kind of served as more generic answers. Like maybe you go into Grixis so you get some Pyroblasts and Lightning Bolts, for example, or maybe you just play a couple of edicts in the board. I'm not sure if Call of the Ring is necessary. Like it might be one of the weaker cards in the deck, but I definitely got good usage out of it during this league. This deck gets a thumbs up from me. It's sort of like the thing that I played, I think it would have been Tuesday for you all. Like Orcish Bowmaster feels very good alongside blue cards. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say here. Remember, if you end up wanting to get any of these cards in paper, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. And folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!